Let's get the latest on the 2024 race for the White House and what we are learning about the Harris economic plan, which is due out later today. Joining us right now is Jonathan Martin, Politico Politics Bureau Chief and Senior Political Columnist. I want to thank you for joining us. What do you think we're going to learn? There's been some expectation that it's going to be somewhat vague, but there could be something about trying to bring down, of course, prices at grocery stores and the like.
I think we'll hear the words middle class probably 73 times, Andrew, today. Yeah, look, this is going to be heavier on vibes than substance. I think you're going to hear talk a lot about, symbolic issues like cutting costs, like her identifying with the middle class. She may refer to her own childhood where she thinks she worked for a summer during college at a McDonald's. I mean, so much of this is more biographical than it is substantive because she is new to so many American voters. Look, I think one of the things we will hear, though, that is new is a plan to try to induce home builders to build more units for first-time home buyers by rolling out a tax credit for home builders that are willing to build housing for folks buying for the first time. I think recognizing the challenge for a lot of people with housing these days.
Jonathan, do you think it would be a politically smart thing for her to get into details about tax policy or regulators or all of the things? I mean, all the questions that I imagine you may very well have for her about her economic plan. When do you think, if you were advising her, when is it that she's supposed to tell the public about these things, or is the plan not to?
February of 2025, probably. I mean, I'm only half kidding, Andrew. Look, I think her entire bet is to make this race a question of, do you want the Donald Trump persona? Look, Democrats have flourished for almost 9 years whenever Donald Trump is in the headlines. When American politics is about Donald Trump and his conduct, Democrats do well. And so clearly that's going to be her strategy. And then you overlay that with some reassurance based upon her biography and her messaging that she is somebody who was willing to hew to a more centrist political persona. And I think that's really the campaign. Yes, she'll put some meat on the bones on policy. She's going to have to, I think, just to get by for the next 80 days. But I really think most Democrats want to make this about, do you want Trump talking, as he is given to this or that for the next 4 years in your living room? And the bet is that most Americans will say no.
One of the big issues, though, is if you have no sort of concrete policy, it gives you flexibility, but also it prevents the sort of full-on critique of whatever that plan is. Does that become problematic at some point when people say, I need meat on the bones?
I think it does if we see more activity like we did 2 weeks ago, obviously, when you had those really unsightly unemployment numbers and a 2-day collapse in the market. And I think, that raised fears of, oh, my gosh, maybe she can't run as a de facto incumbent. Maybe she's going to have to run from Biden in the White House. I think, obviously, those fears the last couple of weeks have been allayed because, obviously, that didn't presage a broader panic in the economy. So, look, I think a lot of it will hinge upon where things are with the economy, with external events. We haven't talked about the possibility of a wider war in the Middle East and more instability abroad. If that happens, obviously, it's going to force her to speak more precisely about where she actually stands on policy. But I think if you have a status quo or better of the economy, you don't have a wider war in the Middle East, I think her bet, Andrew, is to sort of run out the clock here and just hope that Trump, day in, day out, says things that are going to dominate the headlines, and she can put together a crackerjack campaign and beat him just like Biden did in 2020.
Jonathan, Republicans are already dubbing the effort to address price gouging as price controls, adding to this accusation that she is a communist, and all that other kind of rhetoric around it. Does this backfire on her? How does this play in Peoria?
No, I think, look, it's the best thing the Republicans have going is to say that she's trying to intervene in the marketplace. Look, we told you she was even more liberal than Biden, and this proves it. They're playing the hand they're dealt. I get it. I think, obviously, it's not ideal when you have Donald Trump as your nominee, who heartily is a poster boy for the Wall Street Journal editorial page. So it's the best hand they have with her, and I think it sort of helps make their case that she's somehow drastically more liberal than Biden. I think the good news for her, to be totally frank, guys, she's not encumbered by a deep ideological anchorage. She's never been that way. She wants to win elections, and she wants to be the next president. She's going to do what it takes, I think, to try to accomplish that, and she's going to be largely deferential to what advisors tell her that she ought to be doing on policy and substance. It's hard to recall a presidential campaign in which both major party nominees were so little grounded in any real, ideological worldview. I think the great story in this election is that a lot of the action is going to be taking place in January and beyond of 25, more than it is today, because regardless of who wins, we don't know where they're going to come down on so many issues, economic and otherwise.